Well, thank you, everyone. The challenge to be a speaker post-lunch is to keep you awake. Because most of you would doze off. That's also the easy part, because what I'm going to say, you may not want to listen because you may be just dozing off. I'll try to keep you awake. Thank you very much, ITM Vadodara and TEDx for inviting me. My name is Sandeep Phukan, and I'm a storyteller. Yes, journalists refer to their news reports as stories. Many of you may be already thinking, oh, didn't I know that journalists always cook up stories? But when a reporter says he or she is working on a story, it doesn't mean that it's something that's coming out of their imagination. They are meant to convey events in a real world. It could be an accident, it could be a horrific crime, a defining moment in sports like India's tour of Australia. Of course, never mind that we were bundled up for 92 this morning against New Zealand. But still, it's a defining moment in Indian sport. We've defeated Australia in Australia. And it could be an entertaining film. We look forward to seeing Disha in one of them. Or a scientific discovery. Basically, anything and everything that is making news. Events that need to be recorded for posterity. As they say, that today's news is tomorrow's history. And facts are the most prized possession that a reporter has. Collective trust is what a journalistic institutions enjoy. Let me explain what I mean. If I tell you right now here that a car company in India is making a car that runs on plain water, how many of you will believe? I'm telling you that tomorrow you can buy a car that runs not on diesel, not on fuel, not on gas, just water. Fill a bottle of water and run it. How many of you believe? I can't see a single hand. But if I tell you that I read this in the newspaper, this morning's Hindu, there is almost a sense of legitimacy now. You see, when you talk about a brand, a newspaper, or a news channel, or a news website, you tend to associate certain things, certain aspects, certain qualities with them. You tend to expect that they will inform their viewers or readers honestly, they will inform accurately, and they will inform ethically. So what it means is, in journalism, we call the rule of 5 W's and H. It is meant to tell you what happened. It is meant to tell you who was involved. It is meant to tell you why did it happen, where did it happen, when did it happen, and how did it all start. This is the rule of 5 W's and H. But as storytelling takes newer platforms, and now you have various ways of telling your stories, not just newspapers or news channels. The internet is the biggest source of storytelling, or the biggest platform for storytelling. There are newer questions. A journalist now also has to ask, did this really happen? Does this really exist? Is this true? So from truth, we are now talking about an era of post-truth. From news, we are talking about fake news. Fake news, unlike pure fiction, is made to look like news, but it has clear intentions. It is either, fake news is created either to instill fear in you, or create anger, or spread hatred, or generate a sense of pride, however misplaced it could be, but still it is, they are circulated with these motives, ulterior motives. It's not as if fake news did not exist earlier. If you recall from Mahabharata, when the Pandavas were fighting the Kauravas in the battle of Kurukshetra, remember, the only way Pandavas could defeat Guru Dronacharya was to create a rumor of the death of Ashwathama, his son, right? Yudhishthir, who never ever told a lie, declared loudly that Ashwathama had died. But the fact that it was an elephant was spoken softly. Yudhishthir is the trust factor. And only when Dronacharya diverted his attention to grief for his son, that is the time when he lost the battle. That is what led to his defeat. During the Second World War, Nazi leader, Nazi ideologue, and aide of Adolf Hitler, Joseph Goebbels, came up with the idea of the big lie. Goebbels believed, in fact, it is called, Goebbelian propaganda. Goebbels believed that if you lie 100 times, the lie appear to become reality. If you tell a lie 100 times, again and again, and convincingly, by the 100th time when you hear it, it will appear as if it is the reality. So it's, fake news has always existed as a psychological tool during times of warfare. So why am I even talking about it now? What is the relevance now? Well, I'm talking about it because of the speed with which it spreads on social media platform. Many of you here, youngsters, talked about the social media and the importance of social media. So first, I'm talking about fake news here because of the speed with which it spreads on social media platforms. Second, you are basing your decisions on falsehood. Remember that. You are taking a decision. It could be as important as who you vote for, based on a falsehood, based on a fake news. 3, you are losing the agency of your mind. When you are guided by a fake news, you're actually handing over the decision-making power to someone else. And 4, you are actually becoming an unwitting participant in the process of propagating fake news. Every time you forward an unverified WhatsApp, every time you retweet a tweet which is unauthenticated, you are actually helping in the process of spreading misinformation or disinformation. And that is the reason why we need to be aware, and that is the reason why I'm talking about it now. It always existed, but the way it's affecting in our daily decision-making process is unparalleled. It's also because of the influence and spread of technology. Just to give you some idea of the spread of this scourge of fake news, there was a recent survey conducted by BBC World Service in India. The survey was released last year, November, and they said that cheap data prices in India was acting as a force multiplier. Remember the time when mobile internet had just started? Most of us would allow data to come in for a few minutes, quickly go through our Facebook, whatever, and then again switch it off. Because you're all the time, you are mindful of the bill that you're going to pay at the end of the month. But now everything is bundled in, $9.99 plan and $8.99 plan and $5.69 plan. So, no matter how much you surf, no matter how much you go to the internet to do whatever you want, you will only end up paying a certain amount, and you wouldn't exceed that amount. So that is why there is increasing interface with the internet. A recent survey of Internet and Mobile Association of India, IAMAI, they came up with a figure. Their study said that nearly 50 crore people, the actual estimated number was 47.8 crore in June last year, nearly 50 crore people had access to and were using mobile internet services. Nearly 60%, that is 6 out of every 10 urban Indians, 60% of our population, they were using the internet, mobile internet, either to text, or to chat, or to watch audio-visual content, stream audio-visual content. 60%. If you actually further go down and look at the profile of the users, you will find that majority of these users, of the 50 crore users, majority, so that's over 50% of them are under the age group of 25. In fact, in rural areas, more than 60% of the rural internet, mobile internet users in rural areas, more than 60% were below the age of 25. In urban areas, the corresponding figure was about 50%. Now, why am I sharing all this data? When you have such a huge population, such large numbers, 50 crore, and half of this, majority of them are actually under the age of 25, when you have such a huge number of young, impressionable minds, it becomes the perfect setting for spreading disinformation, to spread fake news. So, because these young people are tech savvy, they are watching news, or they are, getting to know, they're getting to know information not from a newspaper. Who has the time to read newspapers anyway, or who has the time to watch television anyways? This is the refrain that we have from youngsters. So I would rather watch it on mobile, and they would watch it on what they would get the news on WhatsApp, or they would watch it on Facebook, or they would watch it on Twitter. So when you have such a huge number of people watching or looking for information, that is when a perfect ground, a perfectly fertile ground is created to spread disinformation. As I said, that disinformation or fake news always comes with ulterior motives. It is with an aim. When it is spread, it is with an aim to either make you hate someone, or make you love someone, or make you admire someone, or create a false sense of pride. So it has a motive. And and since technology is an enabler, this is why, when you have such huge numbers, it becomes easy to have a captive audience, right? Now, I just want to tell you that you can spread fake news only when you discredit mainstream media. So very often, you would have heard now words like, for people like me, the word in social media, the word is prostitute, right? The word is news trader. So we are referred to as news trader. We are referred to as prostitute. Why? Because go back to the example that I said. If I tell you that there is a car that runs on water, you are not likely to believe it. But if it comes in a newspaper, it almost gains legitimacy immediately. Why does it gain legitimacy? Because collective trust is associated. If it comes in a newspaper like the Hindu or the Indian Express or the Times of India or the Hindustan Times, you take it that people who were behind publishing that report, they were responsible people, they would have done their research, they would have verified from multiple sources, and only after that they would have put out the news. So there is an element of collective trust. Maybe one or two here would believe me if I say that yes, a car runs on water, but there is no collective trust here, right? The collective trust comes with institution. There is an institutional collective trust. Now, how do you make social media, news coming on social media, or fake news more credible? Only by discrediting the other. You have to run a campaign to say that these are prostitutes, these are news traders. Only when you start believing people that, these are prostitutes and these are news traders, then you start believing what is coming on your WhatsApp. In fact, WhatsApp happens to be, incidentally, even in that BBC survey, it proved that WhatsApp was the most popular form of forwarding a fake message. You know why? Because WhatsApp is the reason why. On Twitter or Facebook, you can run a fake news with an anonymous Twitter handle, or you can, an anonymous Facebook can always sort of put out some fake news, but their source can be traced. In a WhatsApp, you just keep forwarding, and you keep forwarding. Somebody may have created, but the nature of the platform is such that if I forward it to one of you, if I forward it to Rishabh, he will see, oh, Sandeep has forwarded. So the news must be credible. Why else would he forward? So he forwards it to people he knows, and people who know Rishabh will probably expect that he would have done his research and he is forwarding a credible news. And that's how WhatsApp forwards create fake news. Uh, Government is dealing with it, everyone is dealing with it, and that's why you see that new small tag forward. It's meant to convey that it's only a forward. Nobody has actually verified whether the information is true or not. So the nature of the WhatsApp platform is such that while the sender looks credible to you, but the person who actually originated the fake news, it is difficult to trace back who created it. And that's why WhatsApp seems to be the most preferred medium. So remember, every time you retweet a tweet which is from an unverified handle, or you forward a Facebook post which is from an anonymous page, or opens up in a proxy server, remember that you are also taking part propagating falsehood. You are actually, that was not your intent. That's why I said unwittingly you are taking part in propagating falsehood. You didn't want to spread fake news, but somebody who I knew well enough, he forwarded me, and I thought that this information is useful, so I just forwarded it. You may not have intended to spread fake news, but that is exactly what you ended up doing. So this and the consequences of fake news could be lethal. Just to give you an example, in my home state of Assam, I originally belong to the state of Assam. In June last year, two young talented musicians lost their lives after they were mistaken to be child lifters. Now, details that emerged from the police charge sheet says that these two young men who were, who were fishing by a river, picked up a quarrel with some local men there. And there were musicians, so they had an argument, so they got up and they wanted to leave the area. But the men with whom they had picked up an argument, they followed them. Then they stopped these two young men, musicians, next to a village, and then they quickly spread this news that these two are child lifters. They are roaming around to pick up children. And there was already and that sort of led to a massive outrage among villagers. They surrounded them, and eventually they lynched and killed them. Now, how did this happen? Because there was already a fake viral message that was circulated in the area. The child lifters are roaming in the area. Nobody had verified this information. It had not come from any authentic source. Yet, it led to the murder of two young, innocent, talented musicians. So fake news could be lethal. As I said, that it's always intended with an ulterior motive, right? So what can you do? What can you do to stop it, to curb it? First, the reason I'm saying is that most of you are youngsters who would be, most often you would be, getting your source of, using social media as your primary source of information. So what would you do? Every time you hear something which is unusual, the first check that you should do, you should ask yourself, why is it that I have not seen this on a news channel? Why is it that I haven't seen this in a newspaper? Because remember, people who are there in a newspaper or a news channel, they are meant to verify. They are meant to research. In fact, there is a saying in journalism, when in doubt, cut it out. When in doubt, if there is a information about which there is a doubt, just cut it out. Yeah. Whereas in social media, you just keep forwarding. So every time, next time you see a social media post that is provocative, always ask yourself these questions. One, why is it that I haven't seen a mainstream news channel reporting it? or I haven't seen a mainstream news site reporting it. I haven't seen a newspaper reporting it. Remember, there is a huge difference between websites that masquerade as news sites and the regular news sites. You know, a journalist stand to lose his accreditation if he peddles fake news. The newspaper license can be revoked. A channel can be taken off air. And above all, a mainstream media stands to lose their own credibility if they peddle fake news. On the other hand, fake news sources are hydra-headed monsters. You cut one head, 10 other appear with a different identity, with a different name. I mean, I have come across websites that looks exactly like the Times of India, but it says Truth of India. Is anyone aware who's behind Truth of India? Does anyone even know, who owns this site? So you can be aware. The next to-do list that I'm going to suggest is to do this. Make it a habit to follow some of these fact-checking sites that have come up. Thanks to this large breed of fake news warrior, you now have sites like Alt News, Boom, FactChecker.in. These are all sites that offer very detailed analysis of a fake photograph, a fake news, a fake post. So they will actually, if you ever in doubt, just tag them on your Twitter and say, hey Alt News, is this fake or real? Rest assured, or hey Boom News, is this fake or real? Rest assured, they will get back to you, they will do an analysis and they will answer. Make it a habit. Make it a habit to verify information before you forward. Otherwise, the consequences could be lethal. And lastly, let me end by a few lines of Rudyard Kipling, who said that employ these 6 honest serving men. His words were, I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all that I knew, and their names are what, why, and when, and here, how, and who. Right? Thank you very much.